Hello everyone and welcome to Grant Slater's tutorial on how to use flex pitch to correct pitch in Logic Pro X. Now today we're going to be taking it from the top, starting on with creating a recording that we can use in Logic Pro. So I'm just going to quickly record that and you guys can be along for the process here. Going to be singing the chorus line from Chandelier by Sia. I'm gonna swing from the chandelier, from the chandelier. And there we have our audio track that we're going to be using for this tutorial. Now, in order to begin flex pitch, you see there's this bar at the top that has all of these different options you can click on. I don't want that one, so I'm going to click on it to make it go away. But we are going to click on this one to make it appear. And what you have is this little section down here. Let's expand it so we can take a little bit of a bigger look at that. So this is the audio track that we just created, that we just recorded. And right now, if we just look at it, we don't actually have very many options for what we can do. We can just look at it and see how beautiful it looks. But if we want to actually be doing anything with that, we're going to want to go over to this little symbol here at the top on this bar of options. And it kind of looks like an hourglass sideways. This is show or hide flex. And so we're going to click on that. It's going to ask you if you want to turn flex on for the track that we have created. Go ahead and turn that on. Now, still, this doesn't look too helpful for what we're trying to do. We're trying to specifically look at these pitches and correct them to be what we want them to be. This is not helpful so far, but that's because this is on flex time slicing, and we're looking to flex pitch. So we're going to go click on that. We're going to click on that that button that I just pressed on, perhaps a little bit too early, and we're going to look up to this very top option, which is flex pitch, and this is what's going to allow us to mess around with the pitch in whatever way we choose. So let's go click on that, and now quite rapidly we have an option now available on this screen. And these bars are each representing the note that I am singing. And you see that some of them are very filled in and don't have any of this extra space like you can see on these notes, and then some of those have a lot of that space. That is because this little box with the little blue shaded in is where the pitch is correct. It is where you are on pitch. And now there are a bunch of things we can do to make this on pitch if we want it to be. So first and foremost, let's look at this this first note right here. Each one of these little dots that you can see gives us an option that we can use to mess around with the pitch, with the sound that has been created. Additionally, you can even stretch out the different sounds that you have. So let's actually go back to what this originally sounded like and let's listen to it. Beautiful, I'm so good. Okay, but let's go see how we can make me even better. So, if we were to move this around or stretch it out, it could sound something like this. You can see that messed up a lot of things, so be careful when you are using this. I'm using Command Z to quickly fix all of the issues that I just created with doing that, bring it back to normal. But you can stretch them out, you can make it smaller, and that is one thing that you can do with this. Another option that you have is you can drag the pitch to whatever you want it to be. So let's go back to where we started. We were starting here on this D sharp, but if we wanted to, if we wanted that note to actually be something else, if we wanted it to be just a simple D, for example, drag it down to that position, and now we have that starting note as a D. And it does not sound good because we did not change the rest of everything to that key. So we're just going to keep it where it is for right now, but that's one option. Additionally, we have all of these lovely little dots, and I'm going to tell you what to do with each of these. Notice how my sound marker here, it moves up and down quite a lot. That's because I had a lot of vibrato in that. Let's listen to that. That went up and down, and that is the vibrato, and we can change that with this little guy in the middle here. That will change the levels of the vibrato. We can even bring it down to 0 or into negatives, but then that just gets creepy. So you generally want to avoid doing that unless you're trying to make a specific effect, because it just doesn't sound right here. In fact, I'll show you guys what it sounds like. Hey, that actually wasn't so bad. Let's make it worse so I can prove my point. So that's working out better than other times I've done it, but take my word for it that generally messing around with vibrato to an extreme level can make it sound a little bit different. But we're just going to bring it down to 0 so you can hear what you can do. But that is not what we were originally looking for. Another option that you have is formant shift. This is to move specifically where you want the formant for the pitch to be, the specific point that we are measuring everything by. And you can shift that around, and then it will correct to that pitch. But that's not exactly usually what the system already has set on that is everything that you should need, because that is currently on pitch. If you're doing very advanced things, musically speaking, that might be a good option for you. Well, let's over here to the gain. This is how big of a signal that you are getting, and generally, if you want in layman's terms, this is how loud it is. So we can make it really quiet. In fact, completely silent. Let's make it quiet first and listen to what it sounds like. That was very quiet, except at the start. But what happens if we instead want to increase the gain and make, okay, gosh, I want to keep my eardrums. Let's just move it up to here. You'll be able to see that there's a little bit more of a difference. That was painful, but let's bring it back to normal with Command Z. But that is an option that we have. You can increase the gain. Now this thing at the top corner, the top left corner here, is called pitch drift. Now it's not very obvious on this note, but let's move over to this one, which actually, ooh, I was on perfect pitch. So on this beautiful note, one thing I did do is I swung up into it. Let's see how it sounds like so I can show you. Okay, so it's chandelier. And for that, I was starting a chandelier. There was a little bit of portmanteau, a little bit of swing into that. Now, what if I didn't want that to be there? Well, that's where the handy-dandy pitch drift can come in. I can simply change where the pitch is starting from. So let's hear what it looks like now that I've shifted the pitch a little bit with the pitch drift. So that was a little bit janky, but that's a risk that you take when you're pitch correcting. But if I wanted to do that, that's something I could do. This thing in the middle is the dot that you will be using most frequently, most likely. This is the fine pitch. So you see how this lovely little block is completely filled in, and I hover over that and it says that the fine pitch is 0. That's because your boy was perfectly 100% on pitch. Now, let's look to this little monstrosity. That is about as off pitch as you can physically be. So I did this intentionally so that you could have an understanding of how this works. But when we look at that, it's pretty bad. So it's not fitting in within this blue. We've got all of that space that is not filled in with blue, and that's how off I am. And the fine pitch goes up to 50. The number value is 50 that it can go to before it switches back to another to a negative. Now, this is because there are 100 cents, so to speak, between each of these pitches. And when you get to 50, you are in between. That's when you get your flat and sharp. Now, this pitch, unless it was supposed to perfectly be that sharp, would not be what we're looking for. So if I wanted to correct this and make it not the monstrosity that it is, if I wanted to make it like this perfectly in fine pitch 0, what I can simply do is I click and I drag. Watch this. Now, after all those horrific noises have been made, let's listen to what happened to that note. So it didn't match with the other things because the others are all off pitch, but this guy was perfectly on pitch now. So let me quickly do this to all of these so that you can hear what the change can be like. I need to stop interrupting myself. Goodness. Not a good day for my singing. This can take a long time, by the way, if you are doing an extended piece that you have a lot to correct on. Now, let's go hear the fruit of our labor. Ooh, that was some good stuff. That was some good singing. It's just like I sang it the first time. Perfect. But yeah, that is how you generally use that. Now, one thing to be careful with, though, while you are pitch correcting is that just because you have adjusted your fine pitch to where it is 0 does not mean it might actually be fully on pitch. Because sometimes, if you are so off pitch, as I way too often am, you may get into the position that it has misread where one of the formants should be, what the actual sound of what the actual pitch that you're trying to go for is, and you might be correcting to the wrong one. So let's imagine for a second that I'm not as brilliant as I actually am, and I came in completely wrong on this note, and it looked something like up there, but it ended up sounding something like that. Now, it's supposed to be this top note, but if it's far enough to the bottom, then you notice how the blue part that we're trying to fill in fits a different space. If I'm that flat or that sharp, then I might be confused and just try to fix it back to 0, which would not be where we are. So you have to listen carefully once you have actually pitch corrected something. Because just because it's at a perfect 0 or a 1 in this case doesn't mean it's actually on the right pitch. So let's mess around with another one, see if you guys can tell that difference. Let's move this little guy and maybe this little guy. And let's just pretend that those are, you see, perfectly on pitch according to what note they are, but they might be at the wrong note. So let's listen to it. Oh boy, that was an adventure. So you could tell pretty quickly that these were not where they are supposed to be. So let's move them back. This one actually should be down here. But there you have that. There are some other fun tools that you can use, such as quantizing, which will rhythmically fix what you are looking for. You can change the gain, which we did over here. Remember how we changed this, and that's why it's so quiet at the start now. Let's bring that back to 0 just for the sake of all this. You can actually do that over here too, and that just messes with it as well. As long as you have selected one of these, you'll have to select each thing that you want in order to use them. With this bar on the side that you can that has all these options. You can also press Control A when selecting one of them. Pardon me, Command A. I forgot that this was a Mac. Command A, and then you can apply all of that to each of them. And I could, for say, quantize to an 8th note, and now all these will be to the nearest 8th note. That can be a little bit problematic too if you do it wrong. But there you have it. You have now all the tools that you should need in order to use Flex Pitch on Logic Pro X to control the pitch of a note. Best of luck, and may your voices be more naturally on pitch than mine always are. God bless you, and may you have a wonderful day.